What is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports to help give you the edge for this MMA 12-fight slate. Cannot wait to break it down. If you guys are brand new to this channel, we provide both free and paid content for all daily fantasy sports across all sports. If you could please show your support by hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course smashing that like button for all of our future MMA content. If you would like to know more about becoming a better DFS player and taking down that big GPP, head over to www.patreon.com/DGFantasy for more information. On Patreon, we give advanced cheat sheets for all DFS sports on DraftKings. These cheat sheets include updated projections, ownership, and our overall favorite plays from slate to slate. We take it a step further by teaching you how to play fantasy sports like a shark, by showing you where the best leverage spots are to put you in the best spots to take down tourneys. Also included is our private Discord chat where you get to talk over the slate with everyone, including our coaches, to help build your lineups. Now let's go ahead and dive right into this MMA slate. Cannot wait to break it down. We have with us, as always, Kevin. Kevin, are you ready to break down last week's slate?
Yes, sir. Let me bring my mic up a little bit. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. There you go.
Sweet. Yeah, I am super excited to get into this, Matt. We had a pretty good slate last time. Another pay-per-view event for UFC 258 coming up, which is surprising. That's a pretty quick turnaround from 257 with McGregor and Poirier. Looking at the, we'll break down the fights from last weekend. It was Overeem versus Volkov. Here's the thing. We had solid success last week. One of our Patreon coaches, I don't know if you saw this, Matt, had a takedown out of like 2,500 people and won about $900. So that was pretty cool. I don't know if you saw that.
Yep.
And we had some other people, win money. I wouldn't say there's a lot of other big winners, but having one of our coaches win $900, and a takedown is pretty cool. But running through the fights, we did, like I said, I think we did pretty damn well. And you can tell me some of the numbers here, but Osborne got us off to an amazing start with a 30-second KO, securing that new quick win bonus on DraftKings. Matt, we talked about this. I think it's a minute. If you get finished within a minute, you get that quick win bonus. I want to say it's 25 points. So that was really cool that we got to capitalize on that. I said you needed 100% of that fight. We took a ton of Osborne in the Discord. So that was great. I mean, that was little obvious, but I said attack that chalk. He still didn't have enough ownership heading into that fight, being $7,800 and minus 200 favorite. So that was ridiculous. Next, I said Teamer was live to win. Don't expect to finish, and that came true. And he scored pretty okay, right, Matt? I think.
Yes.
Teamer Valiev.
Yeah. So Valiev scored 104.37. Did not make it into the optimal, but it was just on that cusp.
So that's literally, exactly how we drew it up, Matt. I think, I said he probably isn't going to finish, probably going to score well for his price, but probably not going to make the optimal. He's probably too expensive. So that's perfect. Didn't have any Choi, and he looked pretty good, Matt. Did he make the optimal, Choi?
Choi did not make the optimal either.
Good. That makes me feel better. Because I did not have a lot of Choi, and he did look pretty good. Ended up getting the win, I think, right? But didn't.
Yeah, he actually only scored 69 points, so that was very low.
Good. It was one of those things. Like, it was like I was half watching that fight, and he put on such a high octane burst at certain points, and I was like, how good is he doing? I feel like every time I looked up, he has a burst that's scary, and I thought he was gonna get the finish a couple times there. Another one that this is the one that I think I talked about not really knowing about her. So I was like, I remember when I talked about her, I was like, this is one there's probably the least I talked about a fighter in 5 cards, because I just didn't really know much about her. And
but now you do.
That was Lara. And I wish I had more of her, Matt. I mean, I'm guessing she probably made the optimal, right?
Yes, she did. 110 points. And you did greenlight this fight for what it's worth.
Good. I did. I just didn't know a lot about her, to be honest. I said that, I thought she was live, but I wish I knew, she was capable of that. She looked awesome. Kept the fight on the ground where she wanted it, and just, caused a lot of problems. So, I was impressed. But moving on to the next fight, I said Rosa was a beast and scores well in decisions, and she did just that. I said you need Devontae Smith and James, as it will definitely end in a finish. Smith got the knockout as expected. Did Devontae Smith make the optimal?
Devontae Smith did not make the optimal, but Rosa did.
Pretty pricey. But who did?
Rosa.
Yep. Good. That goes to show you the new scoring. That's why I said so many times, Matt, in that video, if you recall, Rosa is the best scorer in decisions on the slate.
Yep.
And she did just that. She just has such a high volume to her, such high octane fighter. So that was nice to see. I'm surprised Devontae Smith didn't with the finish. How many did he score? 90, 100, something like
Devontae
that?
Smith scored 96.64.
Yeah, see, some of these, I think it was a second round knockout. That might have been the issue. It's almost like the worst thing you can do in MMA is a second round knockout because you don't get the accumulation of, 3 rounds of volume, then a late finish or the, first round finish bonus. I swear, Matt, sometimes I think the worst scoring
Right.
you can do as a finish is a second round knockout.
Right.
I don't know. I think that was the second round. I could be wrong with that, but it sounds like the scoring wise, and I think that was the case.
Nope, it was. 2
Okay,
rounds.
cool. So, yeah, I don't know what it is. It sucks sometimes. But I also said to target 100% of my boy Mike Rodriguez fighting Danilo Marquez for the finish ability and the style matchup. And my boy got put to sleep, and I was happy to see it for my wallet, to be honest. Sorry, Mike, but I was really happy to see that because I said I wanted a lot of Danilo too. I mean, it just made so much sense on paper stylistically. So that was nice to see. I said Dariush and Ferreira was live, but not sure about a finish, and it didn't end in one. How did Dariush finish?
95.49, so not quite enough to make optimal though.
Okay, definitely scored pretty well for his price tag, but not enough to make optimal. So that's, again, this was a pretty as expected card. Aside from Procopio, whatever her name is. That was everything's basically going as exactly expected. I said basically the same thing for Pantoja and Cop. How did Pantoja score? Pretty low, right?
Scored only 60.92. That's very low.
Yeah, very low on that win. I didn't think either scored well. I said to fade Michael Johnson as the favorite, and Guida was live as the underdog. As he had a lot of grappling ability on Michael Johnson. That was a big fade for us. What did Guida score?
Guida scored 80.19, so obviously did not make the optimal.
Obviously didn't make optimal. Definitely hit his price point. Definitely didn't make optimal. Corey Sandhagen was a core play for us and a cash games play. I did say, Matt, I remember in the video, I was like, he needs to hit that price point. I think on the slate that big, he's going to need a 30-second knockout to make the optimal. Well,
yep, and that's what he did.
That happened via the filthiest flying knee I think I've ever seen. Did he make the optimal?
He did make the optimal.
What'd he score?
125, which is actually the second highest on the card.
That's funny because it's so close to not making optimal though. When you hear about Valley, you know what I mean, and that's not that far above. That's just everything was so close. You know what I mean? But I did say, he was a core pick, and I did say he was going to have to need a 30. Do you see that knockout, Matt?
I did not, actually.
If you didn't, you'll have to check it out. It's disgusting. I love Frankie Edgar. My goodness, I didn't think he was ever going to wake up. It was gross. But yeah, it was wild. But the question of the hour, Matt, is did Volkov and Overeem make optimal? I said that fight was 100% live. Got to get 100% exposure. I just, it's going to end in a finish between these two. I talked about Overeem's glass jaw. He's a glass cannon, as glass cannons come. He can starch a horse, but he can also get knocked out by a toddler. And we saw Volkov get the finish. So did Volkov make the optimal at 8,600?
Yep,
he did.
101.93.
Sweet. So yeah, there you go. A ton of positives there. Some things I wish we did better. Like I said, I wish I had more Corey Sandhagen and tourneys. I was all over him in cash. I just was a little bit nervous of $9,400. That's high. That's a lot.
But due to the upsets, he was able to make the optimal.
Exactly. I was going to say more times than not. And this is a game of this is a game of consistencies, Matt, as is all daily fantasy sports. And more times than not, a $9,400 fighter, even with his finish ability on a slate that big, will not make the optimal.
Right. So
got to play the law of averages there. But yeah, it was still a great tournament. Wish I had more Corey, as I said, and then more Lara. She did great. She was another female fighter to break the slate that I didn't have enough of. It happens. But this next slate might have a couple of those too, Matt. There's 3 female fights on this card. It is also very interesting to see that there's 12 fights on this card, Matt, and only 3 are expected to end in a finish. So we're going to have to utilize that new scoring pretty well on this card.
Got it.
So let's get right into it. We have on our first fight, Jillian Robertson versus Miranda Maverick. Pretty high finish chance, all things considered, on this first fight of the night. It is still only a plus 115 to end in a finish, but it's still pretty high for a girls fight. Jillian has some great submissions and throws a decent amount of volume as well. Miranda Maverick is just a mean fighter. She's a pretty damn good finisher, grappler herself. Tough one to call a winner. I mean, both girls are pretty damn talented, and I do like Miranda as the favorite, especially after an impressive UFC debut where she knocked out Liana Johua. That being said, I think Miranda has the advantage on the feet as well. If it goes to the ground, I really don't know who wins that. They're both pretty good on the ground. So Live fight to start. I think it's yellow each side at the pricing, Matt. I'm not going to make my love list, but what's the ownership looking like?
So ownership is at 29% and 21.9. The benchmark is actually at 29.4%. So anything lower is going to be a GPP option. So Maverick just missing that cusp of the benchmark, 29% ownership. So combined ownership wise, still relatively low. Kevin, definitely some leverage potential here.
That's a pretty spread ownership, Matt.
Yes, it is.
I wonder if that's due to all the low finish chance fights where a lot of the casuals can't just target the high finish chances.
Yeah, might be.
That's interesting. Because 29% was the mark on the last card, I think, and that was a 14 fight slate. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely spread out.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Moving on. We have an awesome fight here, and I think it's a make or break in my opinion. It's Gabe Green versus Philip Rowe. Two pretty green guys who are very deadly finishers. Gabe is 0-1 in the UFC. Philip is making his debut after a pretty impressive knockout on the Contender Series. How the finish chance is minus 165 is actually beyond me, Matt. These guys have finished all 16 of their combined wins and have a lot of tools to put people away. I think it's because they're, again, newer guys, not a ton of clout behind them yet. Not a ton of UFC experience, but again, all finishes in their wins. I'm seeing that Green is coming in as a cheaper option here. As what do you have him as, a minus 135, Matt?
Yep, minus 135.
So yeah, he's cheaper as a minus 135. So that's interesting, and especially where I think it is a pretty close to 50-50, where we really don't know a ton about these guys. That's enticing, but I would probably go near 100% exposure to this fight, especially where we just talked about there's so little finish chance fights on this card. Make or break pricing, and maybe just grab 50% each or something.
Well then, Kevin, you already know what I'm going to say about this fight. When we have a lower priced favorite, you already know the ownership's going to be on him. So top 4 in terms of ownership from Gabe Green, 34.4% ownership, and then Philip Rowe, really, really low at 21.6% ownership, $8,200. A lot of leverage potential here with Philip Rowe.
You said top 4 ownership?
Yep, 34.4%.
That's actually surprising
ownership
to me. I mean, I obviously expect, like you said, Matt, we expect Gabe Green to get more ownership than Rowe, but I still didn't expect him to carry that much.
Yeah, he's very high end. Yep.
Interesting. All right, cool. I mean, so maybe a lot more leverage on Rowe. Yeah. Moving on, we got Ricky Simone versus Brian Kelleher. I have taken Kelleher as a punt before, and I'll do it again here. The dude is so deadly. You can't count him out anywhere. Ricky is a really good wrestler and grappler, and so he's going to try to take it to the ground. Brian Kelleher, that falls right into his trap. Brian Kelleher has a ridiculously mean guillotine, and I think it's terrifying. And I think, Ricky needs to really avoid that or could find himself in that. That being said, Ricky's a good fighter. He's a good winner. I was pretty impressed with his last performance. So I still do like Ricky as the favorite. Last fight, I believe he got the finish when he was pretty pricey. He was actually, I think, like 9,400, maybe the biggest favorite on the slate. And he got the finish. This is tough. I don't know what to do with Ricky. What's his ownership looking like?
Ricky is actually 35.5% owned, and then Kelleher is 24.8% ownership right now at $7,100.
So that's pretty high for a punt.
Yeah.
And I see why. Like I said, I mean, it's just, this is a bad matchup for Ricky and his style. I'm not saying he's not going to be okay, but if anybody poses a threat where, Ricky likes to live, it's Brian Kelleher. So I think both are live here. Might be a good pivot, like you said, because the ownership and how many people are going to be taking the punt in Kelleher. But I kind of like both sides here, Matt.
Now, do you want me to green light this?
You can green light both. The only one that's probably going to make my love list is Kelleher, though.
Okay, got it. All right, moving on.
But Ricky's live. Moving on, we got Andrew Ewell versus Chris Gutierrez. This is interesting. Gutierrez is a good fighter. He's a low-key beast. I mean, he actually, split fights with Timur Valiev, who we just mentioned, who we just watched, beat some ass last card. Ewell, pretty good fighter himself, has a 4-2 record in the UFC, throws a good amount, but I do think he needs a finish to guarantee himself in the optimal, even at his reasonable price tag. Gutierrez, on the other hand, doesn't throw as much and for sure needs a finish to win. So this is interesting. It's a plus 145. I'm looking at a guy, like I said, Gutierrez, who I really do think needs a finish to win. I don't know, Matt. I mean, because there's such low finish chances on this card, I think you got to yellow this fight. I'm not overly excited about it. I'd probably take more Ewell, maybe green Ewell, yellow Gutierrez, Matt. How about that?
You said green Ewell?
Yep.
Okay. So the ownership is very, very low on this fight, Kevin. So I want to hear your opinion after you hear it. Gutierrez at 14.8% ownership and Ewell at 12.8% ownership. Combined wise, that is the lowest on the card.
So Ewell's actually lower than Gutierrez?
Mm-hmm.
in ownership.
Yep.
I mean, that's the one I liked more anyway for finishability. He also scores better in decisions. Like, I just don't think Gutierrez is gonna make the optimal even at 8,400 without a finish. I just don't think he has the volume. Could be wrong, but I mean, then again, if he comes out and gets a finish, he's gonna break the slate. So maybe some exposure, just send some darts in big tournaments since they're carrying such low ownership. But you know, if you're doing a single lineup or you're doing double ups or something like that, I'd avoid both these guys.
Got it. All right, moving on.
But yeah, moving on. But again, big tournaments, take some darts for sure.
Got it.
But yeah, we got Pollyanna Vienna versus Mallory Martin. Pollyanna, great pay down option here for scoring purposes. If she wins, I'm like 90% certain she will hit her price point. I'm not as certain about Mallory Martin with her, you know, higher price and being less capable of finishing fights, but I think she is live as well. Pollyanna makes a good dance partner. You know, she just has a lot of volume, and she's going to, I think, force Mallory into a dogfight a little bit here. Due to the nature of this card, Matt, I think this one will actually make my love list. You got to think at least one of these girls' fights is going to make the optimal, and this one is absolutely not a bad candidate to do so. I do want to hear the ownership, though, Matt. So what do you got?
Vienna is 29.7% owned, which is right on that cusp. So that looks like where people are going to be paying their or paying down for Vienna, just with the ownership, 29.7%, and then Martin is sitting there at 25.6% ownership. So
make a break, man.
That's what it sounds like, and we know with Martin being the higher. The more expensive one with lower ownership, that means a lot of leverage potential there with Martin.
Yeah, no, I definitely like that. You know, the fact that I actually feel a little bit better that the ownership is so split. I was a little bit worried that it was actually going to be. I'm not surprised about Vienna. I am more surprised about Martin. I'm glad it's split because I think that makes it more make or break, and you can actually take a little more Mallory. I actually like that she's carrying a little more ownership.
Right. All right, moving on.
Moving on, we got Belal Muhammad versus Diego Lima. I think Belal, he's in a good place to put your stud money in cash games. He'll probably make my core for that reason. He should probably win more so than anyone else on this card. He's a minus. I mean, we saw that line shift, Matt. It was a minus 400 when I started this write up. What was it now? Minus 500?
Yeah, minus 500.
Crazy. So he has a great line, but more importantly, he's an amazing winner. He's legit won 7 of his last 8 UFC fights, which is amazing. That's hard to do for anybody by any standard. That being said, my goodness, does he not do much with it?
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Dude, Dana probably friggin' hates this guy, Matt. He probably can't wait till he loses so he can boot him, dude. Like straight up, like this dude doesn't do jack. I'm like, it's almost like, how does he keep winning? But you know, he wins boring fights nearly every time. Low octane, usually doesn't end in a finish. Lima, on the other hand, great dude. Love him. Love watching him. Love watching his brother in Bellator. That being said, you know, I would be surprised if he beats Belal. I don't think he wins this fight. So hopefully that doesn't bite me later. But I really would be surprised if Lima wins this fight.
It looks like.
So I like. What's up?
Sorry,
I'm just gonna like Belal for cash.
Okay, I was about to say, it looks like the public hates him as well. 26% ownership. They don't expect much from him, Kevin. I was looking at the last, looks like eight-ish fights that he's been in. He consistently puts up between 80 to 85 points. There's been nothing within or over that amount. So you know exactly what to expect with Muhammad. If he does one, expect about 80 points.
It's like the Jarvis Landry of friggin'.
Yeah, kind of.
Like he's good for a 12-point game, but
that's
don't
it.
expect much more.
Yep. At 12, he's just going to get out of the game. Lima, 5.7% ownership, though. Do you see any potential there?
I mean, obviously that's huge leverage. Like I said, I mean, I think this is the biggest discrepancy of who I expect to win the fight on the entire card.
Right.
The line reflects that, and also just talent reflects that. I think there's a big gap here. That being said, I mean, 4% is huge leverage. If you're doing, again, 150 lineups, obviously take some darts. I mean, if he makes optimal, you're on an island.
Yeah,
so,
if he wins at $7,000, it's going to be hard not to make the optimal.
100%. Yeah, you trip and fall and win that fight, and you're making the optimal at 7K. Yeah. So, yeah, that's crazy. That I can't believe Belal only has 26% ownership as a minus 500.
Yeah, that is crazy. But again, looking at his
last, makes you want to take some
last few fights,
I know.
Crazy.
I know. I think maybe almost like I want to take more darts and tourneys.
Yeah.
Because like, dude, what if he somehow just pours on a little extra, gets a finish or something? Maybe doesn't even get a finish, just feeling himself that day and is winning the fight pretty hard. And he's like, you know what, I'm sick enough not pulling it on dudes. I don't know, but that's crazy. That's crazy. You never know. And I always like that too. If someone's in a position to win, you never know. Maybe they just, they're on top. He takes him down. He starts beating him up, and he just keeps beating him up. And it's just like, okay, now this score's really getting away from him. What's the highest he's scored? That's the question, man. What's the highest
he has scored well in one of his fights, and that was 108. But that was in 2016. So I don't know if you want to throw that. That was Augusto.
I'm too much of a
Tano.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty bad. I mean, not that Diego Lima's much better. Maybe I'm too hopeful. I'm thinking like I'm justifying it. I'm running around and I'm like, well, that's the old scoring, Matt. He could do better.
Yeah.
No,
no, he's trash.
Yeah, he's trash. But you can still take some.
Yeah,
take a couple pieces of that garbage. Moving on, we got Rodolfo Vieira versus Anthony Hernandez. Big Vieira guy here, Matt. I've been watching his highlights all week. I don't know. I really like him. Just holy finish of chances, Batman. This is friggin' crazy. Do you know what the finish chance is here, Matt?
I don't.
Does it say there?
No.
So yeah, it's got a minus 515 finish chance. Unbelievable. Yeah, not bad at all. My goodness. So I think the reason all these fights are expected to go decisions, this fight hogged all the finish chance.
Yeah.
It just took all of it.
It also hogged all the ownership too. So.
Did it really? What are we looking at? Just tell me.
Vieira is the second highest owned on the slate, 51.4% ownership. You said it was spread out. It's literally taken by two guys, and we'll get to the last person. But 51.4% on Vieira. On Hernandez, Kevin, 7.1% ownership. That's very low for a finish chance this high for that person.
Hold up. 51% isn't the highest owned?
Yeah, it's not. It's not the highest owned. It's not even close.
Time out. Okay. All right.
I mean, you can guess the first highest, but
yeah, I can. But my goodness. Yeah. So yeah, wow, that's interesting. Well, after that, hearing that, and after minus 515, I better see. Yeah, I better see a goddamn body bag after this fight, bro. Like someone better get carried out in stretcher. I love Vieira, honestly. I watched him in his jiu-jitsu days back in the day. He was a killer. Translates very well to MMA for him as he's 7-0. All finishes, he's a killer. It's funny. Hernandez is actually a really good grappler too by nature, and submissions have been his, avenue to finish fights as well. That being said, he is not the level that Vieira is. Obviously, this is a problem. You have some good MMA wrestler, MMA grappler, and then they go up against some guy who was a D1 national champion. It's like, all right, well, let's see how good you really are. And I think that's this scenario for Hernandez, hence why he's got such low ownership. I think you have to include him in your punt pool due to his finish ability and what you just said, the lowest, not the lowest,
second lowest,
extremely low ownership. And his price point at 6,900, obviously you get him in, he wins. Obviously that's crazy. Yeah. But again, I think you do want more Vieira. You want a lot of Rodolfo, and if you want to hedge a little, like I said, take Hernandez. I get it, but that being said, you got to take him. I hate to say it, you got to take the chalk here because I mean, there's just such a high finish chance. I mean, going 15 minutes with this guy, if he gets it to the ground, it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare.
Right. All right. So very straightforward. Let's move on.
Cool. Moving on, we got Maki Potolo versus Julian Marquez. This is actually the only fight on the main card, Matt, that is expected to end in a finish. I think that is justifiably so. And for that reason, I do like this fight a lot. I think there's a lot of volatility here. And honestly, in terms of leaning towards a favorite here, I think it's tough. If you believe in common opponent, that's something that matters to you. Julian Marquez finished Darren Stewart. And Darren Stewart did submit Maki Potolo in one of his last fights. So that's interesting. Again, if common opponent means anything to you, I do like both sides and we'll target both for sure. But, both make my love list here. So not too much else to add here, Matt. It's pretty obvious. I mean, it's one of the only finish chance ones on the card. Don't have to, get fancy with it.
Well, that's kind of crazy because, Kevin, the ownership is so low on both these guys. 22.2% on Marquez, and Potolo is at 16. So
yeah, so that's
crazy.
That's the one. That's the make or break.
That's the one
right there. That's stupid. That's like Maki Potolo throws bombs, opens himself up a lot. I think that's pretty stupid. That's a great fight to target. Great leverage there. That
make or break fight right there with low ownership. We love to hear it. Moving on.
Love that. That's really weird. Moving on, we got Jim Miller and Bobby Green. First thought is I don't love Bobby Green for the most part in this matchup between two really good veterans. I should say really good, like they've had long careers, but they're both not like, world beaters. They're just another day at the office kind of guys. But I don't think Bobby Green puts Jim Miller away. Jim Miller's tough to put away. And Bobby scores fairly well and wins. So I would still say mark him as a yellow, but him not making optimal is still my gut feeling. Jim Miller, what do you do with him? He could steal one. Jim Miller has the pedigree to steal one. He really does. And the thing is, he's a great grappler. You know, he can take Bobby Green into deep waters. And Bobby Green, I like him. He's not an amazing fighter to the point where, like, I'm confident putting 9K on Bobby Green, especially Jim Miller just fought, who was it? I think it was Roosevelt Roberts, who was at the time like an even heavier favorite than Bobby Green is right now. And Jim Miller put him out. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Jim Miller at 7,300 will always probably be a good punt for me, especially against someone like Bobby Green who loses often. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's not like that. Like, I don't understand really this line so much. I mean, Jim Miller loses often too. Don't get me wrong, but so does Bobby Green.
You're saying they're both trash bags, is what you're saying. So
yeah, they're both old veteran trash bags.
Got exactly. It. Bobby Green, 25.7% ownership, and Jim Miller, probably the two easiest names I could pronounce. This is thank goodness I'm finally getting some easy names here. 17.8%. So ownership's relatively low. Kevin, do you like that?
I'll green light Jim and I'll yellow Bobby Green.
Love it. Yep. Love when you take stances like that.
Yep, I like Miller more for the price for sure. Moving on, we got Kelvin Gastelum versus Ian Heinisch. This one I looked at, didn't quite know what to do with it when I first looked at it when this card was released, and I was like, had to take some time to think about this. Kelvin's had super tough competition lately, don't get me wrong. Boy, oh boy, has he been on a downward spiral, though. I mean, the last fight he had was against Jack Hermanson, who's obviously a stud, but getting, heel hooked in a minute is definitely going to be, it's going to ruin your week. So that was not pretty for him. He's still a great fighter. He's just faced some really tough guys lately. Heinisch is a tough kid too. Has had some decent fights in the UFC. He just tends to slow fights down a little bit, which scares me. He does have some one-punch power, as we saw, but I mean, not nearly as much as Kelvin Gastelum. He has a lot more one-punch knockout power. I think this fight is live, Matt. I do think it's live. I would just rather have more Kelvin as the favorite. Kind of the opposite of the Jim Miller, Bobby Green stance I'd rather have Kelvin as the favorite more. But this fight is one of those ones. I think it's like 50-50 to make the optimal. Like, okay. I really, wouldn't want to overexpose here, but I wouldn't want to underexpose either. I guess it's let's go green Gastelum, yellow Heinisch.
All right. Due to that, 26% ownership on Kelvin, and on Heinisch, it's 16.7. So it seems like the public agrees with you there. Yeah,
it's a tough one. It's a tough one. There's a lot of scenarios that could play out there. It's definitely one of the harder ones on the card to like kind of predict just how this fight's going to play out. Right. The one thing I could say is Ian Heinisch uses his wrestling. He's a good wrestler. Kelvin Gastelum has a better wrestling background than a lot of fighters that Ian's fought. And I know he was I think an Arizona State champ. He's a good wrestler. So hopefully he can, keep it standing. And I think he then presents more of a threat on his feet than Ian. That being said, move on to the co-main with Maycee Barber and Alexa Grasso. Maycee Barber, man, she will forever go down in history, Matt, as the girl who lost as the minus 1,000 favorite.
Yeah, that is crazy. I'm looking at it now.
It's just unbelievable. A lot of pissed off.
Oh, that was on the same event as McGregor and Cowboy?
Was it?
Yeah, that's what it says. Event McGregor versus...
I really can't recall. I just remember Maycee friggin' Barber just getting annihilated. That's the thing. She tore her knee, but I think she tore in round 2, like after getting
her doors kicked off.
The piss kicked out of her for 5 minutes by Alexa Grasso. I mean, Roxanne Modafferi. So, and Roxanne Modafferi of all people, who doesn't beat up anyone. Like, Roxanne Modafferi is gonna like take you down and grapple you a bit. Like, it was weird, man. It was not a good look. So I don't know what to think. Believe it or not, I still genuinely think she is still live in this fight, like very live, which is crazy after that performance. I like that she's the underdog now at 7,900.
Does she have a knee now?
She might have a knee. She might have 2. But I'll tell you this. I just can't believe I'm saying this, but I mean, at 7,900, it's a lot different. It's not like they're like, okay, I know this girl would just look like a hot bag of garbage, but now pay 9,200 for her.
Right.
I'm like, at 7,900, we can take a stab. She's still a really, really good finisher. She still cracks. She hits hard as hell for a girl fighter. I think Grasso is actually yellow here. She's had some bangers as well, especially how bad Maycee Barber looked last fight. Grasso, you got to put her yellow. But, if she puts on a performance like she did against Carolina, then Grasso is going to be fine. She's going to score very well, and she's going to make the optimal. But usually she doesn't score that well. So that's why she's yellow. But green for Barber, yellow Grasso, and I'll throw Maycee in my love list. Screw it. I'll take one more stab at her at 7,900. I think she's live. I do.
Well, Macy is right on the last spot as a cash play, Kevin. 29.4% ownership, which is the benchmark, and then Grasso 15.8% ownership. So
it seems like a lot of
very
people are
low on Grasso.
Yeah.
So
seems like people are on the same train as me about Macy Barber may make a little comeback tour here.
are you being a casual? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm actually that is one I am shocked that the public is sharp on that one.
Yeah.
That's weird to me. It's how are they so not sharp on Maki Potolo and Julian Marquez?
Right.
I remember the first time Maki Potolo fought, I actually remember getting like comments in our videos like, why would you take Maki Potolo? The first time he fought in the UFC, they're like, that's just a waste of a pick. And he made the optimal and starched the dude in like a minute.
I remember that.
Like, okay. Yeah. So
some smart
I don't
people.
know. That's weird that people are voting that one and they're sharp to Macy Barber, having that knockout ability, but more power to him. But moving on, we got the main event, Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns, amazing fighter. Love what he's done this past year, putting it on Tyron Woodley. He looks amazing. Super well-rounded guy. I think he's going to be a tough test for Usman. I really do. Maybe I'm not going to say the toughest test Usman's had, but I think he's going to be a tough test. This one might have some stack potential. I could easily see this going the distance, especially with how Usman fights. I will say in my heart of hearts, I do think Burns needs to finish Usman to win this fight. I think just about anybody not named Colby Covington is going to have to finish Usman to finish the fight. That's just how I feel. I don't think anybody has the cardio, pace, or style to go 5 with Usman and come out as the winner.
So Usman has not lost.
Usman has lost once in like 2013 to some nobody before his UFC career.
Okay.
He's just been beating cheeks ever since. He's been like on a 18 fight win streak
Crazy
or something. He's just tough, man. He's tough to handle. His wrestling's great. His chin's great, so he can take the shots coming. I mean, watch this fight with Jorge Masvidal. Who hits harder than Jorge Masvidal? He just, and he just eats shots. He just pressures forward. His cardio is so friggin' stupid. He can just go for 25 minutes. The new scoring, I'll tell you, I saw DraftKings posted an article about MMA when they did their new scoring, and know who they used as an example of someone who's going to benefit, Matt? Kamaru Usman. They're like, now when someone like Kamaru Usman gets someone against the cage and starts peppering with little shots, they actually get scores for it. I'm like, bang, that's all you need to know. Usman should be the highest scorer on the slate now.
Yeah,
he absolutely should be.
Should be one of the best scorers, period, ever.
What'd you say?
He should be one of the best scorers ever.
Yeah, seriously. I picture him for 5 rounds just taking someone down and just chopping him with little shots. Yeah. That's just going to be a nightmare.
And $9,000 really isn't that expensive. We talk about this all the time, and he's not the most expensive on the card, which is crazy.
Nope. I think this one definitely has potential. This one should make the optimal, and Kamaru Usman wins in 5 rounds. Makes the optimal. Gilbert Burns finishes him before then at 7,200 makes the optimal. How is it not going to make the optimal?
Right.
So I definitely love this fight.
60.9%, Kevin.
What is it?
For
you cut out a little bit.
Sorry, 60. Can you hear me? He's 60.9%. Yeah.
That's the most since McGregor.
Yeah.
Obviously that was.
Yeah, McGregor was a great pick.
But McGregor was the most I heard since months. So 60% is crazy.
Yeah. Well, this one actually makes sense, I think, right? I mean, in terms of actual DraftKings scoring, I mean, the McGregor one obviously made sense too, but this is, like you alluded to, DraftKings scoring wise, he should absolutely dominate. Burns, 29.4% ownership, Kevin. So do you like him at all?
Yeah, I do like Burns. I think he's live. What was the ownership? 29?
29.4. So it's still pretty high.
Seems like a lot of people are stacking. Yeah. Sounds like it.
Do you think it's stackable for cash?
I think it's I think it's stackable. I'm waiting for the day something becomes stackable with the new scoring in GPPs. I believe it'll happen. I'm waiting for you to tell me an optimal sometime where a stack made it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I do think it's possible on a short slate.
On the very small GPP contest too. I honestly don't think it will ever happen with a Millie Maker lineup. The day that I see that, I mean, that would have to be so rare. I just don't know if that's going to happen for a while.
Probably not, but I still think if you look at the fight of Joanna versus Zhang or something like that with the new scoring especially, I mean, I think they were close before. With the new scoring on a short slate, so you got a 9-fight slate and everything else doesn't go according to plan. I mean, think of it this way. It's not impossible for Usman and Burns. I don't think it's going to happen with these two, but I'm just saying, just as an example, to both hit over 100. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think it can happen. I mean, you look at Raw, I think without the new scoring, that fight I'm referring to, I think Joanna as the loser hit 95 points or something.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
You never know. Never know. But yeah, I'm waiting. Maybe I'm just hopeful. I think it'll be interesting when that happens. Breaks the slate. But yeah, I think this fight's live, and I think it's stackable in cash, Matt. I do.
Yep, I just think because of the price tag, $7,200 for Burns is very, very cheap for a fight that could go the distance and should go the distance. So, all right, 100%. let's hear your core picks, GPP plays, and pump plays, Kevin, and then we will wrap up this video.
Cool. Core plays, Usman, as we just talked about, super talented, best winner on the slate by far. Bilal Muhammad, another great winner. As we just talked about, you know, he's going to carry a lot of chalk. Actually, not as much chalk as I thought, but still should carry, I think, more closer to the lock. But that's crazy. I mean, I guess you could put Vieira in that category. I'll put Vieira in the hybrid category of GPPs and core, because I do think there's more volatility in that fight. But I mean, he is undefeated and he is carrying a stupid amount of ownership. So you can put him either category. So use that to transition to GPPs. I like the fight of Green and Rowe. Love the pricing and the finish chance there. Vienna and Martin, decent pricing and see finishability for both girls, more so Vienna. Potolo and Marquez, Matt, we just talked about both really good finishers who can be finished, and you just said the ownership was ridiculously low. So huge leverage there. And then Macy Barber, good finisher and solid chance to win at our price. Even with the public being sharp on that one, it's still right on the line at 29%. Looking at my punts, Kelleher, good matchup for him, as Ricky should push the takedowns, and Kelleher can guillotine anyone, like I said, so he could fall right in that trap. Hernandez, great pivot off Rodolfo and cheap as hell. Imagine if you took him and he somehow wins and, you know, 60% of the field has Rodolfo. So that'd be crazy. Jim Miller, best punt on the card, in my opinion, to have a real shot of winning in terms of fact. Like, I think Jim Miller has the best chance as a real punt to win, even more so than Gilbert Burns. I just think, like, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but I think that like Jim Miller, Bobby Green fight is like near 50-50.
Yeah.
In terms of winner. And then Gilbert Burns, easily the second best fighter on the slate, if not the first, depending how it goes with Usman. If he beats Usman, obviously he's the best on the slate. But if not, I still think he's the second best fighter on the slate. He's amazing.
All right, Kevin, thank you so much for breaking this all down, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy this content. If you did, please do hit that subscription button, notification bell, and of course smash that like button for all of our future MMA content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your weekend, and let's cash.